Um, so today we're going to talk about email marketing. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit last week when I was doing the training last week. So I think this is the last piece of the puzzle. We talked about generational marketing. We talked about online forums. We talked about podcast, right? Trying to give you guys a little bit of sense of what else is out there. And today is the final piece of this, and this is email marketing. So a lot of you think of email just sending emails to your friends and things like that, but it's kind of crazy. There's currently 3.9 billion email users, and they're expecting that in the next couple of years to go up to 4.3 billion. So it's a really crazy number when you think of it. We talked about the different social media platforms and the millions of subscribers that had, but email marketing, I mean, everybody has an email. So I think what's important is when you talk about it, why is email marketing so important? And the first thing is the ownership, right? So I remember when Facebook went down, and everybody that uses Facebook to market whatever business they're in or anything that they're doing, when that went down, everybody was lost. So with email marketing, you own that. That means you have direct access at any time to the people that you have their emails. And it's direct communication. So when you look at this, you can tailor your emails to whatever communication you want to get across to people. You can foster relationships. And remember, everything we've trained about is how to build trust. So the email marketing is really a great way for you to build trust. And it's cost effective. When you look at this, and later on we'll talk about email platforms, but when you talk about it, you're not paying to post something on a social media. You're not paying for a podcast, or you're not paying for an online forum that you're participating in. You have direct access to the people that you want to talk to, and you can measure the results. So whatever platform you're going to use for your email marketing, you can see the metrics on it. It will show you who opened it, how many opened it. It will show you the click-through rate. It will show you how long they spent. If you have it go to a website or something like that, it's really pretty amazing. So when we talk about social media, let's talk about how you're going to use the social media platforms to build your email marketing, because that's really the big thing, right? Is, okay, we know how important email marketing is, but how do you capture those emails? So let's talk about social media. So one of the ways you can do it is you promote opt-in incentives. And this is where you utilize, let's just say Facebook, where you're going to offer incentives or exclusive offers, or maybe an ebook, something that you're going to capture their email. One thing I wanted to remind all of you is we talked about Canva before. And Canva is a great source when you're looking at promoting posts through social media. Another way is you're going to host online Q&A sessions. And when we talked about social media before, we looked at Facebook Live, we looked at Instagram Live, there's Twitter Spaces. So you're going to encourage viewers to submit questions, and you're going to invite them to sign up for your email. Again, the key is to capture as many emails as you can. And I know many of you are doing trade shows or card shows. So this is an idea where you could post something that you're going to be live from a card show this Saturday. Please join us. And that's where you can ask for their emails. You can also share content teasers. And this is email exclusives if they want access to a live, and you can think outside the box a little bit. So it's a teaser with an upcoming promotion. Maybe you have a card that you've purchased recently from Collect Direct, and you're going to offer that up. And to get that, you need their email. The next one we're going to talk about is the online forums. So those of you that are now going to participate in doing online forums, how can you build your email list with the forums? And the first thing is to participate in relevant discussions. Now, we talked about this when we did the online form training, is that you want to participate in as many forums that are applicable to the collectibles business that you're doing. When we looked at comic books, right? So if you're going to do that with comic books, delve into the relevant discussions, and you're going to participate in those discussions, and maybe put a comment that, hey, if you want more information, or if you want my ebook, or if you want to learn more about what I'm doing, let me have your email and I'll send it to you. You're going to offer exclusive format content. Now, this is where you're going to create exclusive content specifically for forum members, and you want to promote an incentive to them. And in order for them to get this incentive, they have to provide their email. And this is going to give access to downloadable resources, special discounts, insider tips. Maybe you want to tell them that you're going to give them access to a magazine. They don't have to know that the magazine's already out there, but utilize that magazine to try and get their email list. Another thing is to host an Ask Me Anything session. And that's where you can have an online forum that you allow members to ask you questions about the collectibles that you're promoting. And this is where I told you that you have to make sure that whenever you're doing something like this, you have to really know your content. So if you're going to offer a Q&A or an Ask Me Anything session, they're going to ask you questions. You really need to have a full understanding of whatever the content is that you're going to speak about. But the big thing about this is Ask Me Anything sessions, they've got to send you their email, because again, the email is the king to what you're doing. The next thing is, how do you get emails through podcasts? You're going to promote an email sign-up episode. So when you do this, you're going to mention your email list and its benefits to everybody that's on the podcast. So let's just say you're doing a podcast. You say, everybody, please send me your emails. Make sure you drop your emails into this podcast, because I've got some exciting announcements that's only available through email. Another is you're going to offer an exclusive podcast. So you're going to use the podcast to get their email by offering an email subscriber only podcast. And maybe let's just say you're doing comic books, since that's the subject that we always use. So let's just say that you're going to have a special podcast next Thursday at 7 p.m. to everybody that's on my email list. You don't want to miss this, and that way you'll get their email. And you want to collaborate with podcast hosts. So this is where we talked about, this is a community. Everybody that's involved in this business right now, you're involved in the Collect Direct community. So you want to collaborate with each other. And we talked about this before, that the collaboration is just going to build trust. So let's just say that two of you are going to collaborate. You want to be able to make sure that you put that out to everybody on your podcast, so that they're excited about joining this podcast. But in order to join the podcast, it's a special invitation only, and it's done through emails. So by providing incentives that's tailored to each format, you can effectively expand your audience and nurture a connection. Because we've talked about that. The whole reason that you're doing social media, online forums, podcast, is to build an audience and to build trust, because nobody's ever heard of Collect Direct. Everybody's looking at what they're doing as far as the collectibles business, but you need to build trust. Why is somebody going to listen to you, watch you, follow you, and give you their emails? But before you start, you have to have your goals, right? So before you're going to start your emails, what are your goals? What purpose do you want to achieve with the email? So think about that. Every email that goes out, you have to follow a guideline, right? So before you can craft the email, you have to define what's the purpose of this specific email. What's your objective? Whether you want them to be informed about an upcoming podcast or an upcoming card show that you're attending. What are the main points you want the reader to understand? You have to identify the key message or main points that you want to convey to the reader. And these should be the most important and relevant pieces of information that align with the purpose of this email. And consider what action or response you want to elicit from this email, right? That has to be very well thought of in your goals. How can you get the readers to understand those points concisely? So you have to make sure that you're communicating your main points and clearly ensure that the reader is going to understand it. And you want to avoid any unnecessary lengthy explanations. Think about the emails that you receive. If it's not concise and it doesn't get to the point and it's not impactful, are you going to even take the time to read it? And what's the appropriate email etiquette or tone for the recipient? Remember, whoever's your recipient, you've got to make sure that you tailor what's the relationship that you have. And you may have your email list segmented into, I don't know, if you're doing comic books, if you're doing toys, you don't want to send out a comic book email to somebody that's on your toys list. And that's how you want to drill this thing down, because you have to make sure that the language that you're using is tailored to that specific audience. If it's not, you're going to lose that person as a subscriber. You'll lose any further relationship you have with them because you haven't targeted their specific needs. Now that you've defined your goals, we have to look at how do you write these things, right? So there's 15 tips. And the first is to use a professional email address. I don't want you, if you have an AOL or a Gmail, if it's going to be difficult, right? So it's really easy if you go to GoDaddy or anything like that, you get a URL with an email in it and you use that service for as an email. Think about it. How many times you look in your inbox to see all those emails that you get? I know when I wake up in the morning and I go to I have 3 different email accounts. One's an AOL, which is where most of my trash goes. But then I have other emails that I've set up through GoDaddy. I use a professional email anytime I want to send out something of significance. If I'm just emailing a friend or emailing back and forth to Dave, I use my AOL. So you want to make sure that you use a professional email address. You want to have a compelling subject line. So you want to grab their attention and you want to make sure that they want to read it. So how many times do you open your emails and you see a garbage subject line and you just delete it? That's why you've got to have a really compelling subject line. And you want to start with an appropriate greeting. Begin your email with a courteous and personalized greeting tailored to the recipient. And what I'm going to show you later, there's platforms out there that make this so simple for you to do. Have a strong attention grabber. So you want to hook that reader, right? You want to hook them right from the very beginning with a compelling opening sentence or introduction that captures their attention. You have a quick couple of seconds, right? You have to make sure that it's a professional email address. You want a compelling subject line. You want to start with an appropriate greeting, and you want to have a strong attention grabber. You want to make sure you keep your message concise. So you want to focus on the essential information. You don't want to get stuck in the weeds with stuff that doesn't matter. You want to make sure that it's concise. Be consistent with your fonts. How many emails do you get that it's just a hot mess, right? That there's maybe 3 or 4 different fonts and they have bold and little and they use italics. It makes me crazy when I get these emails that are just all over the place. There's no continuity to what they're saying. It's just a hot mess. You don't want your emails to be like that. And you want to check the tone of your message. You want to make sure that it's appropriate, right? You want to make sure that all of this stuff is going to align up and that there's a balance between formal and friendly. Let's also look at the other points that we have. Write a simple closing. So you want to conclude your email with a concise message that reinforces what you just talked about in your email. You want to use a professional signature, and you want to write the first draft with AI. Practice email etiquette. So what is that? What's email etiquette? You want to adhere to the appropriate email etiquette guidelines based on the specific relationship that you have. So if this is somebody, let's just say you have a list that you're sending out to for your comic books, and this is a new list that you've just acquired from, you were on a podcast and you asked everybody that was interested in learning about the different eras to send you their emails. That's the specific content that you should be writing about. That's the tone that you should be writing about. So everything in that specific email makes sense. When you're doing CCs and blind CCs, use it wisely. Don't blind CC somebody that you shouldn't. Again, it's when we talk about being thoughtful with this kind of stuff, it's something so simple as a copy, carbon copy or a blind carbon copy. You want to just make sure that you have relevance and that you're using people's privacy here. Schedule your emails. When I show you the different platforms, it's very easy to schedule your emails because you don't want to go to bed on a Sunday night and think, okay, first thing tomorrow morning, I have to get up and schedule that email. Just like we talked about with using Canva or any of the other platforms, you want to schedule everything out. This goes with your 30-day plan. So when we talk about that 30-day plan to schedule out one full month, you want to make sure that your emails are part of that. And you want to do a final spelling and grammar check. One thing you don't want to do is have somebody look at your email and think, this person doesn't even know how to spell, or something like they use, instead of letters, they'll use symbols. That always makes me crazy when somebody uses a symbol when they're sending me an email. Like, that makes no sense to me. Unless it's a bad word and they don't want to use the words, the letters, then they'll use symbols. But you should be sending emails like that anyway. And schedule a follow-up reminder. So if you have an email going out with somebody and it's really important, you want to make sure that you do a follow-up with them and say, hey, did you get my email that I sent 2 days ago? The importance of that. So again, you're going to follow the same 15 steps with that follow-up email. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is the platforms. So here's the top 4: Constant Contact, MailChimp, MailerLite, and Aweber. So I can tell you that if you look up, and again, I Google a lot of stuff. I personally use Constant Contact. A lot of people start with MailChimp. They have a free service, and I think you can have, I don't know, maybe 500 contacts on that service. I love Constant Contact. I have my Canva that I hook up with Constant Contact. Constant Contact, as well as some of these others, have their own AI. So if you get stumped on how to write a relevant type of an email, if you go to these different services, they'll teach you everything. Everything that I'm trying to show you in these trainings is really to make it simple for you. You've got to have a 30-day plan. You've got to have ideas of what you're going to do. You've got to segment your market. You've got to pick the social media that you're going to use, the platform, or online forums now. You've been opened your eyes to online forums and podcasting. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing for you to do is to collect emails, because you own those lists. And yes, some people are going to give you bogus emails and you can just get rid of them. But for the most part, if you're out there promoting this, people are going to want to participate. If you have value to share, people are going to want to participate. And the easiest way for you to own all of this is really through building your own email lists. So that concludes today's training. It's really not that difficult to do the emails. And I really want you all to think about that. Think about setting up a URL with a distinct email. And if you're in the collectibles business, come up with something catchy. If it's the comic books or if it's toys, and you're going to want to start looking at this. You can get your own URL email account. You can hook up with Constant Contact or MailChimp very inexpensively. And you can really start to build an email list that you own. So no matter what you do as far as in your business, you own that list, and then you're going to plan what you're going to do. And it's a good idea. I would look at doing 2 emails a month. You don't want to overwhelm people with doing too many emails because they'll just think that you're become a nuisance. But 2 emails, 3 emails, maybe a month. If you want to do a weekly email, maybe you want to do a newsletter, right? So you can be creative with this. You can come up with some really cool ideas. And if you aren't really good at coming up with ideas, find an AI that you like ChatGPT is one that you see everywhere. If you go there, you can ask them, hey, here's the business I'm in. I'm doing collectibles and comic books. I need to come up with some really great ideas to send out emails. Yeah, you cannot, right, Patrick? You can't use collect direct in your URL. So when we're talking about the collectibles business, do not use collect direct, do not use collect away, don't use anything that Dave has as a proprietary URL, but be creative. There's so many ideas out there that you can come up with. So that's what we really want to stress with today's training is just this is the cheapest way and the only way for you to have ownership of the people that you're contacting. Remember, Facebook, I know it's your friend, but if it goes out for any reason, you've lost all those contacts. If you own your email list, you own everybody's name that's on that. So I hope today kind of opened your eyes to everybody on how easy it really is. This Zoom will be available on the Facebook page. But Ben, I wanted to ask you, do you have 5 winners for us today? Because I know Dave is kind of busy in the warehouse. So he said, please remember that there's going to be 5 winners. So Ben,
I am drawing them right now.
Super. Drum roll.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so let me see this chat. Winner number 1 is Jim Weissman. Number 2 is Kathy Stewart. Number 3 is Kevin Mercury. 4 is Paula. So Paula, we don't have a last name. And 5 is Steve and Debbie. So all of you that are winners, please make sure you send an email to support@collectdirect.com. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today for this short email marketing training. I hope you've all learned something. Give it a try. And if you have any more ideas for trainings that you'd like, please drop us a note on that Facebook page and we'll be happy to do it. So again, happy Mother's Day weekend to everybody. And I hope you all enjoy your weekend. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ben, for pulling those numbers.